talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. Be clear. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste, the therapist. Let's go.
Hi. Okay, let me fix my mic. I'm all over the place today. Uh-oh. All right. All right, you guys can see me. And let me get closer to the mic because I need that audio to be popping. All right. Hi, beautiful people. If you are watching me on the replay, thank you for watching me. If you have never been into any of my lives before, my name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston, and I come on to talk about things people go through, and then I also help people navigate how to deal with it. I got a cough. Hold on. My goal in doing this is to help shift the way you think. And so I've been podcasting since 2018, and July 2nd, 2024 will be 6 years of podcasting, literally every single week. I've provided people with a brand new episode, mostly talking to people that are doing things to empower other people. But now that I'm building my group practice, so if you don't know, I have a group practice that is going to be open in Stoughton, Massachusetts. And I am building out my team now, which means I have absolutely no time to podcast with other people. If you go to shiftingthewayouthink.com or stwyt.com, you can find information on the group practice. So last time we met, we talked about navigating the complexities of relationships, and that episode is actually out streaming everywhere on all audio podcasting platforms. So if you are an audio podcast listener, you can find it there. But it's also on YouTube, Facebook. You can find the links everywhere. Today, we're talking about strategies for creating harmony in your life. And I know this is something that a lot of people want, but not sure how to get to that point. So I'm gonna just talk about like why it's hard, and then I'm going to break down the solutions. I don't have a lot of time today, so I'm going to get through this content because I'm going to give you guys these nuggets. And before we start with like navigating what harmony looks like, I just want you to understand what we're working with. I love a working definition. So according to the dictionary in psychology, harmony refers to a positive state of inner peace, calmness, and balance, as well as the feeling of being tuned with the world. And the social sciences is used to describe a pattern of relationships within the social group and between individuals and their social context. I love the idea of peace, calmness, and balance. Those three words stuck out for me. And then if I asked you, do you want peace, calmness, and balance? I doubt anybody would say no. That's one thing that I feel that I have in life, but it is something that I don't take lightly. And it is something that I have to continue to create. Like I just can't wake up and say I want to have a calm, peaceful, balanced life, and it happens. It doesn't work that way. So if it's something that you're thinking about as I'm talking about this and you're saying you want it, it doesn't just come and happen overnight. It's something that requires a lot of intention. When I think about the way we make time for things and the things we value, if you live in a society that promotes certain things in certain ways, you'll be surprised how much your value or what you think you want is going to look like society. Not just society, let's talk about family systems and culture. If you grew up in a culture that said that, your goal in life is to be a doctor, or your goal in life is to be married, or your goal in life is to have children, or your goal in life is to get a college degree, that may not even allow you to make money, but create student loans. If that's what you've been taught, you'll be surprised at how you are creating time to live a life that doesn't even feel like it's designed for you, right? And also when you think about like success and what you want your life to look like, a lot of people think they know, but I know a lot of times you haven't actually sat down to look at what that actually looks like for you. And so you tend to make time for things that are tangible, right? You will set your alarm to go to work because you know if you don't go to work, you can lose your job and you won't get paid. And you will make time to say yes to somebody that needs you because guess what? Growing up, you've never had autonomy over your life and you were taught to do what people ask or else you'll be a selfish person, right? You were taught to fulfill the needs of others because of your abuse that took place. And so as an adult, you struggle with saying no. You were taught to be in certain friend groups a certain way because you guys have bonded over trauma or bonded over experiences. And now that you want to grow, you don't know how to get out of that place. One thing that's so important to understand is that if you want to work on creating harmony in your life, you're going to have to probably get rid of some of the old ideas. How do you get rid of old ideas if you don't realize like they're not meant for you? And so you have to really be mindful on the life that you're living and be mindful if it's the life that I really want to live, or is this the life that society says I should live as a Black woman? Is this the life that my culture says I should live as a Caribbean person, right? Being mindful of that because there are a lot of regrets people have. I actually just looked it up yesterday. Let me see if I can pull it up. There's these 5 regrets. I looked up, I was thinking about, because the number one regret I always knew, but I didn't know about the 5 regrets. 5 regrets of life. This is important. Okay, I found it. Let me just share my screen really quick because I want to show you this because it's like, why wait until we're on our deathbed to be like, oh, I wish I had have done something, right? You already have people that have been on their deathbed and have shared what they've regretted in life. And I want to just share that with you. Share screen. Okay, here it is. All right. So if you see this 5 regrets for people that are listening on audio, I'll read it. It says, number 1, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. This is like the number 1 regret that people have. Number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. A lot of times we're working so hard for others and we're doing absolutely nothing for ourselves. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Emotions and feelings are something that I talk about a lot. Instead of us expressing them, we allow it to eat us away. And it really creates so much damage in our lives with being stagnant in life. It creates damage around us doing the things that we say we want to do. So much damage happens when we're not able to express our feelings. Number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. This is something that's huge because what happens is life be lifing, and then you're not making intentionality to be around the people that you truly love. It's so interesting how at funerals, we will fly across the country, we will do everything to be there. And the number one thing I hear, I'm always talking to people and I hear, when people pass away, I wish I had of. And then the last thing it says, I wish I had let myself be happier. So these are the top 5 regrets of the dying. These are literally people that have shared their story with a nurse, with somebody that was around when they ended their life. Like literally, you see what happens when you don't live your life. Like, so it's kind of like thinking about what you will choose, right? Because my goal is to help shift the way you think. And so if you don't realize that, like, you know what, down the road, I don't want to live my life and be towards the end and think like, I wish I had done X, Y, and Z. You don't have to do that, right? And so one of the things that we're going to do today is I'm going to talk about solutions, right? If you're somebody that wants to be more strategic in your life, if you want to create more harmony, we don't live in a culture that talks about harmony. It's a lot of dysfunction that happens in our culture. If you're in America, a lot of dysfunction. And that dysfunction we're surrounded by. There's a lot of dysfunctional energy, sometimes even in your own home environment, right? So sometimes you grew up in dysfunction. Sometimes you may not have a dysfunctional life, but the way you're seeing it, like you're creating dysfunction, right? So sometimes if you grew up in dysfunction, you still create it with the way that you think. A lot of times people are their battle, their biggest battle that you're going to face is in your mind, right? A lot of times you don't realize it's not what's outside of you, it's the internal thought process and the way you're talking to yourself that's creating so much harm in your life. So if you want to think about how can I work on creating more strategies in my life, because I do want harmony, and the three keywords that sticks out when I think about harmony are the balance that I want, the calmness, and that inner peace. Right? Because when you get that inner peace, like no one can take that away from you. Like I have so much calmness and inner peace. And don't get me wrong, there's moments where I feel like it's chaotic, especially if I'm doing new things. But at baseline, it's a very calm and peaceful life. And I realize the society is chaotic. I realize things are still happening around me, but I am mindful on not allowing it to dictate like the lens on my life, the way I'm viewing my life. So number one, let's talk about solutions. So if you are listening to this, if you're a writer and you want to write this down, in school, I always took notes. It takes a while for me to learn. So I read, I listen, and I'm a note taker. It takes a while for me to process. The one thing I could process really easily is if people are sharing their story. And then in my mind, it just does this thing where I'm like, okay, I get it. Anything outside of mental health, I need to like really break it down. So number one, assess your life and be honest with yourself. What do you like and not like, right? If you want to work on creating harmony, if you want to work on being more strategic and intentional, you really got to be mindful of assessing where you are in life, not where you thought you would be, not where you wish you could have been, but where are you at right now in your life? What do you like or not like? Even if it's like, let's say it's a job. I don't like my job. You don't want to admit that because you got to get up and go to your job, but let's just name it. Let's like, start naming it, right? Sometimes when you think about finances, sometimes people are struggling and maybe they have spent a lot of money and they don't want to really look at what they have spent. And so it's kind of like, you know what, let's just face it. The moment you face it, it's not going to have that power over you. So if it's a relationship that you're in, you don't really want to think like maybe this relationship isn't for me because we've been rocking out for 5 years. And that means I would have wasted 5 years. Do you waste 5 more years? It's all about shifting your thought process. So number one, assess your life and be honest with yourself. Number two, make a conscious decision to be intentional. It's a daily thing. Being intentional is so daily. It's not one of those things where, let's say you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking of, and I'm talking about these strategic ways to be harmonious in a chaotic world, and you say, "Oh, this sounds good. Like I think I'm gonna do that." This broadcast is over, and then life happens. Remember, you're surrounded by energy that's full of chaos. You're surrounded by energy that wants you to look a certain way. You're surrounded by energy that wants you to purchase things. They don't want you to see the power that you have within, because if you see the power that you have within, you're not going to be purchasing the things that keeps the system going, right? So really be mindful of making a conscious decision to be intentional about what you're choosing to do. Number three, we're going to make a schedule. Pay attention to what you say yes to. Why do I want you to pay attention to what you say yes to? Because I promise you, I've been doing this work for so many years. Um, you will tell yourself you don't have time to do the things that you need to do for yourself, to start that business you said you wanted to start, to read that book you said you wanted to read, to go on that walk you said you wanted to go on. You're going to tell yourself that, right? Because, you don't want to admit that, maybe I'm like, my hands are in too many different places. Maybe I need to roll it in. But if I roll it in, that means I got to say no to somebody. And I don't want to say no to somebody because I'm going to feel bad. Think about that. You rather feel bad for saying no for that person and live your life full of not getting the things that you say you want to do. Like, tell me if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense at all. Miss P Love says, it took me a while to do this. I'm so much better because of it. That's so good. And that's a great point. As we're talking about this, it's going to take time for this stuff to come into place, right? Because I don't want you to think it's an overnight thing. This morning, right, I literally took a hike. I took a hike and there was like a big tree that was in the middle of the road. And so my mind's, I'm always thinking, actually, I was listening to a broadcast. I listen to like mental health motivational speakers all the time. And I was thinking about this analogy of like, I need to go around this tree. And I think about life. and how there's a blockage, there's something that happened, there's a barrier that happened, right? Something happened. And instead of us looking at the full picture, thinking about how can I get through this, right? We stay stuck. We don't look at the full picture. We'll see the barrier. I see the tree, but I also see that I need to go a little bit further up, or I may need to cut some branches off, or I need to hop over. I can't just keep walking straight, right? So you hit this detour in life, and instead of you thinking about what can I do differently, you sit there and you stay stuck. And so if I sat there at the tree and stayed stuck, time keeps passing me by. I might be like, oh, this tree's so big, there's too many branches. Or man, do I really want to go all the way up that hill to get around the tree? Right? I'm using this as an analogy because literally that's what you're doing with your life is you're telling yourself it feels too hard. It's going to take too much time. And so as you're standing there at that crossroad, what's happening is that life continues to go on, right? You say you want to go to law school, but dang, it's going to take like 5 years. So then 5 years later, time is still going by. So why not start the process, right? Can't tell you how many times people say they're too old to do something. I've heard so many stories of people starting a new career in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, right? So perspective is everything when you're thinking about like how you're going to create change. And as Miss P. Love said, like it took her a while to get to that point. She would have never gotten to that point if she never made the first step to do that, right? So a lot of times you may aspire to be somewhere or do something like someone else, like they're very inspirational to you, and it feels like it's something far-fetched. But in order for them to get to that point, they had to start at A, right? I can't go to Z without starting at A. I can't get to G if I don't go from A to B. And as I'm going from A to B, I got to make sure I'm celebrating those moments. Because if I'm not celebrating those moments, I'm going to just think about like, oh my gosh, I still got to get to Z. So really be mindful of that. So making a schedule and paying attention to what you're saying yes to. And the reason why I say making a schedule, you need to make appointments with yourself non-negotiable. Too many times the appointments we have with ourselves, the walk we say we're going to have, the hike we say we're going to go on, right? The book we say we're going to read. We'll say, yeah, we're going to do that. But then somebody says, oh, Celeste, let's go out. Or, oh, Celeste, let's do this. Oh, can you do this for me? And then we'll look at our schedule. Nothing's written down, right? Because we just said we want to do it. We didn't really like make a conscious effort to put it in our calendar. I'm going to look at my calendar and I'm going to say, oh, I can't. Just because I don't have to be nowhere doesn't mean that my time is dedicated to someone else. When I know that if I don't take care of myself, no one's going to do that for me. So you have to be mindful on making a schedule for yourself and paying attention to what you're saying yes to. And make sure you're part of that schedule and make sure your schedule is non-negotiable. The next three, the fourth one is setting goals in all areas of your life. Do I have a wellness wheel here? Setting goals in all areas. Yeah, I do. Setting goals in all areas of your life. And when I say all areas of your life, I mean this wellness wheel. So people that are listening on the audio, these are different dimensions. If you Google wellness wheel, you'll find different variations. Sometimes people like to create their own and also make different pies for a certain area they want to really be specific about. But your emotional life, like your well-being, environmental, financial, intellectual, occupational, physical, and social and spiritual. So thinking about the areas of your life, and this is something I do with my people all the time, is especially if they're like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck, everything sucks. They'll say everything's bad. I swear to you, I've never had someone where I've gone through, they come to me, everything's bad. Okay, everything's bad. And I just calmly say, okay, everything's bad. I meet them where they are. I pull out this wellness chart. I was like, all right, let's go over this. Let's break it down. And as we begin to break it down, they start to be like, well, everything's not bad. But that's what happens with your mind. Your mind starts to do this thing, like all or nothing, right? Where it doesn't acknowledge, especially if you're not an intentional person about acknowledging the good, your mind will start to one area, let's say finances, which is a huge area that can create so much mental turmoil for us. Let's say it's our finances that's not well. It can feel like everything's not going well. You could be reading that book. You could be going for that walk and you're not acknowledging the things that you're doing, right? but your mind is only emphasizing on that one area. I'm a very like positive thinking person. People in my life is like, dang, Celeste, you always find a way to find the beauty in the struggle. Like you can take a situation as hard as it is and you can like rework it. Cause I've trained my mind that way. But even as someone who trains their mind that way and thinks that way, my mind still kind of gets into that negative space, right? Like I wanted to do a 3 mile walk one time, but I woke up late and I had appointments later, so I had to cut it down. So I finished. It was a mile and a half, and I was like, "All right." I looked at my watch, and then my thought came in. If you follow me on Instagram, I share a lot on Instagram, and the thought came in. It goes, "Yeah, but it was only a mile and a half." And I remember thinking to him, I laughed, right? I heard the thought like it was only a mile and a half, and I was like, "Nah," but I got up and I walked and I moved my body, and that's what mattered, right? I literally answered that thought. And the issue is that we're not answering that thought. Those thoughts that are coming in, we're just like, dang, but I only did a mile and a half. We'll really like be down on ourselves. We got up, we did that walk, but then we'll make it into a negative thing. How? You know what I mean? So you have to be mindful of what you're saying, and setting goals for the areas of your life is powerful. Because if you're not writing it down and making it plain, where's your goals? Your goals won't be what's on that paper. Your goals is going to be what's on social media. Your goals is going to be what you're watching on TV. You don't realize that, but if you don't, because the way society says things should be a certain way or blah blah blah, I move at my own rhythm. Like I don't go at the pace of society, because my goals, I'm mindful on the direction I'm heading. And so if your goals aren't written anywhere, how do you know where you're heading? You're going to feel like you're all over the place. The last two. So understand the fifth one. Okay, really quick. 1, assess your life, be honest with yourself. 2, make a conscious decision to be intentional about your daily things that you're doing. You got to be intentional. Number 3, make a schedule paying attention to what you're saying yes to, because if you're not paying attention to what you're saying yes to, guess what's going to happen? You're going to find yourself all over the place. Number 4, setting goals in all areas of your life. Use the wellness wheel to do that. Liz, rock the beat of your own drum. Yes, that's what I do. That's right. Okay, number 4, yeah, set goals in all areas of your life. Now, number 5, this is the kicker, guys, because I already know you get a little uncomfortable and you start to be like, I don't know about this, Celeste. I need you to understand that this is going to be very uncomfortable. Ain't no way around it. Ain't no way around it. It's going to be mad uncomfortable. It's going to be so uncomfortable. And this is why people don't do the process. People aren't doing the process because they don't want to change. I truly believe people really want to change. I truly believe that. But I also understand that we're not used to discomfort, especially in 2024, when we have social media at our fingertips, where any little emotion come up we don't want to deal with, we can just scroll and laugh, right? We can just look at something else and distract ourselves, right? And then try to go to sleep and can't sleep because all these things that we're not dealing with is sitting in our head. And so when it comes to trying to create this change and be very intentional, you have to understand that this is going to be an uncomfortable process. But, with growth, there comes discomfort, right? If you're just sitting around comfortable, then how are you growing? As I'm building out my group practice and I'm learning so many things, it's very uncomfortable. You know what I mean? But I also recognize my goal at the end. So if you're following along with these solutions and you're going to use these and try to work on creating change in your life, you really have to understand that this is going to be uncomfortable. But how you deal with that discomfort is key, is going back to number 4 and looking at, okay, these are my goals. This is why I'm doing it. This is why I'm so uncomfortable, because I have this thing at the end of the road that I'm waiting for. And as I'm getting to that, I'm celebrating each moment of my life. Liz says people want to change, but they don't want to do the work that is required. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like if you see the way I operate in life, this morning I literally woke up and I did not want to I didn't want to get out of bed. I wanted to stay in bed. Staying in bed is very, very comfortable, right? I'm not going to lie. Me sleeping in is very comfortable. But because like my goals are imprinted so much in my mind, I don't go off of what I feel like. And I can't tell you how many times people will come to me and say, like, well, I don't have motivation. Motivation doesn't just come out of thin air, right? It comes with the discipline, the way you're training yourself. And so if you say you want to do the things you want to do, you got to ask yourself, what am I doing to get there? What am I doing to get there? And if you're not doing anything to get there, check yourself. I said to myself, I wanted to read at the beginning of the year, I wanted to read more. And I remember a couple of months ago, I checked myself because I wasn't really reading like I said I wanted to read. And I said, Celeste, what are you really doing to read? I wasn't intentional about the process. So then I created intention behind the process because that was something I said I really wanted to do. When I wanted to drink more water, I put a sticky note on my computer. So this is the thing I come to every morning so I can remember to drink water. Right. So the things I say I want to do, I'm very intentional about putting things and markers in place to make it happen. The last thing I'll say is continue to assess and reset. There's times and stages and areas of your life that maybe at this point you was going to do it this way. You're being conscious in this area. Your schedule looked like this, right? Sometimes we got to rework the schedule. Sometimes we got to rework the plan, right? And that's okay. You know what? So Celeste, the thing I'm doing now, initially, I was trying to do something different, and it's developed over the years. And I always tell people, if I didn't make the first step to do the thing I said I wanted to do, I wouldn't be here creating a group practice right now, right? Like my goal wasn't that, right? And at the years ago, I said I wanted to do some kind of wellness something, but I didn't know what it was going to look like, and it felt so hard, so I just abandoned the plan. But I still kept doing something different, and I got to the point where God brought me back to my original plan. Right. So I need you to be mindful on thinking about, if I want to create harmony in my life, and I'm just going to remind you really quick about harmony, because I know I doubt anybody will say they don't want harmony in their life. And when you think about harmony, I want you to think about these words: a positive state of inner peace, calmness, and balance, as well as the feeling of being tuned with the world. So being mindful of the way that you're operating and the discourse that you may be feeling inside. A lot of people are feeling a lot of discourse um, because they don't know what to do. And we're in such a chaotic time in life that you really got to wake up with intention and be mindful on what you're choosing. Am I going to choose the discomfort in this moment, right? Or am I going to choose being comfortable? The example, if am I going to choose sleeping in and not moving my body, even though moving my body has so many benefits to my wellness, to like me, like feeling like my thoughts are being broken up, like I can have a clear mind. Am I going to choose that, or am I going to choose sleeping in? Right? You choose the short-term benefits versus the long-term benefits. We all have choices. You just got to ask yourself what you're going to choose. I hope this was helpful. I hope this makes sense. If anything I ever say resonates for you, you got to understand that you have power to create change. I can't say that enough. You got so much power. Y'all got so much power. And that's why I do this. I created this like platform because I really realize how much people don't understand their power and the way that they can create change in their life. But you got to understand your power. And when you understand your power and you have faith and start to believe in yourself, remember, faith and fear are the same thing, but one feels better than the other. What are you going to choose? Faith or fear? But when you start doing that, understand that there's no limit. Like you can just keep going and keep growing. Don't forget, you can follow me everywhere by searching Celeste the Therapist. And if you want to learn more about me, you can visit my website, celestetherapist.com. Until next week, beautiful